Zavali.
Hello, Patrick Hines.
Oh, fam, this is what I love this so much when we get to drop an episode from our Patreon series in the regular feed.
Yes.
Tell them everything about Pepsi Where's My Jet.
Pepsi Where's My Jet was a Little McMillions vibes. It's this kid who won all these Pepsi points, and on the commercial, Pepsi was like, and you get a jet if you get 1 million points. And the kid goes to get the 1 million points and collects all the things he's supposed to, and then Pepsi's like, we were just kidding about the jet. And then there's a lawyer involved saying, actually, girl, you didn't have enough fine print. And there's this legal battle between this kid and PepsiCo.
But it's all about how he got the points, and it's it's so wild. It's like caper.
It's like a David and Goliath thing
totally.
Of this kid trying to take down the big corporation. And we are a Coke podcast.
We absolutely are a Coke podcast.
Yeah. In terms of taste, a crispy fountain Coke.
Absolutely the best.
Anything.
Well, listen, all 4 episodes of this are available right now and ad-free on Patreon. You can binge them all.
Yep.
That's where you get over 450 full ad-free bonus episodes. We've covered, just about everything you can think of, from Netflix, Hulu, Max, Discovery Plus.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything. And this is great because this is a little Patreon taste for you. And it was a throwback. We did this a long time ago, and it's sort of it's some lighter fare, which I know we all need right now.
Truly. And when you join the Patreon, you also get our monthly drag bingo, which we do once a month. It's so much fun.
Let me tell you something. That's at the $5 level.
It's true.
So you're getting all those bonus episodes and drag bingo. We're not gatekeeping schwa and drag bingo. Are you kidding me?
If you want to go up, you can get ad-free episodes. We have a tier called the Hero Bell tier where we send you stuff in the mail sometimes. We make special episodes just for the Hero Bell tier.
We've been doing fun unsolved mysteries of unexplained. So we did Loch Ness and Bigfoot and UFOs. We're doing all that stuff that we can't really cover on the radio.
I gotta tell you, the one that we did about the Loch Ness Monster of America, Steve thinks is one of our funniest episodes ever.
Champ.
Yeah, Champ.
Come on, we're old friends, Champ. Champ's 1,000,000 years old.
Oh my God. All right, well, enjoy this episode 1 of Pepsi Where's My Jet. We'll say a quick goodbye on the way out.
Yep.
Have fun.
Okay.
Mountain Dew gets no love in this episode. I don't understand. It's the Pepsi Coke war, but no Mountain Dew?
It's the Pepsi Coke war.
Okay.
Pepsi or Coke? Choose wisely.
I'm a Coke person, of course.
God.
What am I, a monster?
Always
also,
have been.
the polar bear ads get shit talked about them. I love the polar bear ads.
You know why?
Why?
I'll tell you in the episode.
Okay.
I have a whole rant.
Okay.
Now, the more Pepsi you drink, the more great stuff you're going to get.
Play that again?
No fine print came up. I don't care what anybody else says. That is a legit offer.
In the 90s, Pepsi was famous for the advertising.
It was a cool club to be in.
Different world then, different John. This commercial comes on. Harrier Jet, 7 million Pepsi points. I really saw this as an opportunity to change my world. I'm like, I want the jet. My mind couldn't stop racing to try to figure out how to make this happen.
We just couldn't drink that much Pepsi.
I need to buy 1.4 million 12-packs. I knew there was one person that I could potentially get to bite on this.
And then he pitched this idea. It's crazy. It's insane.
6 warehouses, somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 people. It would cost $4.3 million. But I'm reading the fine print.
We found a loophole. Here we go.
Bring on Pepsi.
Hey, somebody sent us a check for $700,000 for the Harrier Jet.
What?
What? 7 million points, Harrier Jet. You saw it.
It's clearly a joke.
This was a money grab opportunity.
And then they changed the ad.
We're just kidding here.
A big corporation knows how to game the system. I'd use different language if I weren't on camera.
You're on Netflix, so you can use whatever language you want.
Fuck them.
Pepsi went on the offense.
It was in no way an admission that we had done anything wrong. It was an admission of guilt.
That was above my pay grade.
Legal will kill anything.
It was something right out of Tom Clancy's story.
I'm not going to prison over a damn jet.
We need to shake things up a little bit.
Plot twist.
Michael Avenatti. You can read all about him. Just Google his name.
This is when things really started to get crazy.
They never figured that there ever would be a John Lennon.
What do I have to lose?
You wanted that jet.
I want the jet.
Johnny wants the jet.
So the episode opens with them making everyone do the Coke Pepsi challenge, which was totally a thing.
The blind taste test,
Yes,
yeah.
they would do this in supermarkets.
But the first person is
God.
icon legend.
Patrick
Bombshell.
Hines. Patrick Hines.
Patrick Hines.
Thank you so
also
much.
Also Cindy Crawford's here.
Also Cindy Crawford. And she, number one, she doesn't look a day older than she did in 1993.
Yeah, and it's blurry at first,
Yeah.
and then we finally get into focus, and it's oh, there she is.
I mean, number one, I was trying to figure out how they even got her to participate in this.
Yeah.
Did they pay her? I don't know. Because she was like, her Pepsi commercial was like the most famous.
Right. And people still dress up in that outfit for Halloween, and she knows because they always tag her on Instagram.
So funny. Also, the fact that Cindy Crawford is putting the fucking soda in her body.
Oh, yeah.
In her perfect, iconic body.
She's amazing. But so we see them handing cups of soda to everyone.
Yeah.
A woman named Phyllis is sitting in a mansion at a big dining room table with one big sandwich platter on one side, a big dessert platter on the other, at least one painting of a dog. Phil, we'll get back to her in a little bit, but this spread.
I know.
Enormous sandwich platter for 30 people.
And she's tanned for Jesus.
Yeah,
it's just
Phyllis. We'll get to her.
Amazing. So we're going back to the 90s, baby.
Hell yeah.
Somebody says the 90s have some of the best commercials in the history of advertising. And that's really true. There's a 90s account that I follow on Instagram.
Yes.
And I love it.
The 90s, it was such a moment for commercials.
Yeah.
Like, the Macho Man Slim Jim, the Budweiser commercials with the frogs.
Oh my God, it was everything. I mean, it was also just like the amount of like plastic shit we made to sell in the 90s. You know?
The style of advertising in the 90s was building brands in the most intense way.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
It was crazy.
Everything is at 100. Everyone is screaming.
Lots of celebrities.
So many. I mean, like so many celebrities. And it was like the production value was like it was made by Scorsese. Like the commercials were really good.
Well, right. So Coke was the original, right?
Yes.
Always at the front of the market, as it should be. Coca-Cola.
Original cola.
Right.
Originally made with actual cocaine.
Oh, yeah.
My God.
That Drunk History episode is amazing because it's Bill Hader.
Oh, is that right?
Not being drunk, but reenacting the guy who decides to put Coke. And it's, I think, Jenny Slate who is telling the story.
I can't believe they ended Drunk History before we got to do an episode.
It
breaks my heart.
We
would have been so great.
I would have done both the lip syncing and the drunk. I would have done either
same.
or.
Oh my God.
I would have done either.
No, absolutely. Lin-Manuel Miranda is pretty great.
It's really great.
I cannot believe how drunk he gets.
He came on the Hamilcast soon after that, and I always had a cocktail, and so I made him like a special cocktail, but I was like, oh, we also have this, like offered him the bar, and he saw, because he drank Honey Jack, and he saw it, and he was like, get that Honey Jack away from me. I will never. He was like, it was the drunkest I've ever been.
Oh my God.
So Coke was the original. It was always at the front of the market. And Pepsi tried to be like young and cool and fun. And their commercials prove that. At one point,
and they've got everybody. They've got Madonna, Michael Jackson, Marlon Brando, Britney Spears, Cindy Crawford,
David Bowie, Tina Turner, Mr. Cotter from Welcome Back, Cotter.
I know. It really is like the amount of money they must have spent on these commercials.
But someone says Pepsi was the underdog. I'm like, yeah, the multi-billion-dollar company was the real underdog. But I get it.
You know the ad that no one talks about? It's my favorite ad from. Are you going to bring this up too?
The Joy of Pepsi Britney ad?
No. We'll get to that in a second. This was an ad where it was a guy on a deserted island and he's water. And he crawls so that he sees a bottle bobbing in the ocean.
Yeah.
And he gets to it and he picks it up and it's a Coke and he dumps it out.
Good.
It's so good.
It's a good ad.
It's such a good ad.
I am a Coke girl through and through.
Same.
But I have like a weird, here's where my pop culture knowledge comes in. I have like a weird memory or just knowledge of these Pepsi commercials. So Britney Spears, if I say Britney and you don't know, get out of this podcast. I'm turning this fucking podcast around. Don't you dare. So there was like, she did so many of these ads, but she had like the Joy of Pepsi ad that was like a single. It was like a 2-minute video.
Is that right?
And it was like, you don't remember it?
No.
Oh my God. Ride. Just enjoy the ride. You don't remember any of it?
No.
My heart won't skip, but a beat. I never look before I leap. And then it would be like a true Britney
was that
song.
good dancing?
It was it was perfect.
Thank
oh my God,
so
Brittany.
Thank you.
Are you here? Are you okay? I have questions. Are you all right? Are you safe?
Oh my God, those dresses.
Then she'd like go into the Joy of Pepsi thing.
The world goes round and round, but some things never change.
And then there was a bridge and like 2 breakdowns. Like the song was amazing.
Oh my God.
Then they had another one where it was like Britney through the decades where she was like dancing like the 50s and the 60s and the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
But then earlier, you must remember this, the Madonna commercial.
Yes.
Madonna did a Pepsi commercial that aired once. and was banned.
Why was it banned?
Oh. So it
Here
was.
we go.
Basically, it was just like Madonna dancing.
I can't believe you're not in this documentary.
Because they don't talk about any of this. I don't know why. Like, these are the commercials everyone wants to fucking talk about.
Totally.
Madonna, it was like 1989, Like a Prayer just come out. So it's basically Madonna doing what Britney's doing, just like dancing in the street, giving people cans of Pepsi and dancing to Like a Prayer. Perfect, great commercial with like the biggest superstar ever. Then the Like a Prayer video came out.
Oh, yeah. With
And
like
so-
the cross and the black Jesus and the
and like
blood.
sex and religion and like what do we do? So then after that video came out, the commercial, they got so much like backlash. The commercial was banned and never aired again. It was aired one time.
My God. Can you see it? Is it out there somewhere?
YouTube.
Also, are we talking about the Alfonso Ribeiro Michael Jackson one? They show a clip of that. So Pepsi comes up because they're like the little sister.
Right. They want to put Coke on the defensive because Coke like just cannot be topped.
So they come out with this idea about like the more Pepsi you buy, the more Pepsi shit you could get.
Drink Pepsi, get stuff.
So
that
it's
was
like
the thing.
Every can comes, or what? Every box of like a 6-pack or a 12-pack or whatever comes with like a certain number of like Pepsi points.
Pepsi points, and then you get Pepsi merch, and I'm like, hard pass.
Like Pepsi T-shirts, leather
It's
jackets.
just like hats, Pepsi, sunglasses,
you know what? Though,
Pepsi.
like this was the era of like bowling alleys and like the tickets where like you get like the you go to the arcade.
A sucker for an arcade and a bowling
alley. You spend
alley.
like $100 to get like a $2 frisbee and tickets.
Yeah, or like a teddy bear that smells like cigarettes. The thing is, it's just more advertising. So like you're paying Pepsi to let you be a walking ad for them.
Totally.
Kind of.
And then we see the ad, and so the ad, like the kid like comes out of like he's wearing like the
Typical
Pepsi
cool
shirt.
kid.
And it's like the Pepsi t-shirt, 700 points, leather jacket, 1,200 points. And it ends with him in like what they call a Harrier fighter jet.
Yeah.
And it like lands on his front yard and it says
he goes to school in it.
He
like lands
better
at
than a
school.
car.
Right.
And he's like, the Harrier fighter jet, 7 million Pepsi points.
And now all of this stuff was in a catalog that you can get. The jacket, the hat, the sunglasses, whatever. So they kind of do, and this is very stylized, very McMillian. So they're like, wait a second, let me see that. We go through that last shot again. He lands the jet on the front lawn of school. There is no fine print at all.
And they say at some point, this is the era of fine print in every ad.
Right.
There's always like whatever, and then there's like pages of fine print.
Right. And
but there's nothing here.
And it was like the same font as like the leather jacket or the sunglasses. Like there was no wink.
Right.
There was no, it was just like you can get all of these things, including this Harrier jet for 7 million points.
Now we learn eventually that one 12-pack of Pepsi comes with 5 points.
So it's like break Pepsi. What a scam.
Right. Well, because what they're saying, we get this whole round table of like.
The bottom of that video was very clear. Here it is, the Harrier Jet, 7 million points.
It's clearly a joke. People don't offer military hardware as prizes.
They put this shit up there on the air. Live by your word. You say, you do it.
Hundreds of millions of people saw the ad, and there's one guy who says this was a serious offer? That was ridiculous.
And I see it on both sides.
I do too.
Because they're kind of like, of course no one's going to think you were going to give you a fucking jet. That's insane. But then at the same time, like, there's no fine print, so why wouldn't you think it was a real offer?
Right. At one point, someone from Pepsi's like, it's a military hardware, okay? It's not a prize. So out of the
turns out that is and isn't true.
Right.
You know?
So out of the millions and millions of people who saw that commercial, one guy held Pepsi to their word.
Yes.
And his name is John Leonard, and he's here with us today.
Every time I see it, I see John Legend. Hi, John. Every single
John
time.
Leonard. Yeah, right. So we see at the very end of the series, we get like the results of the Pepsi challenge in the blind taste test, but we see John's right away.
Yes.
He chose Coke in the blind taste test. And
I'm
he's
sorry,
like,
but like Coke is just fucking better.
I'm not sorry.
I know.
Oh, kill me on that hill.
You were so passionate about Coke.
I am truly passionate.
I love that.
If I'm at a restaurant, may I have Coke? Is Pepsi okay? Absolutely not. What else do you have?
I'll do lemonade,
I'll
thank
just
you.
have a water. Just fucking punch me in the face then. Pepsi? And then the worst when you like go over someone's house. And like,
do people actually still buy Pepsi on purpose?
I don't know.
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine. But like the absolute worst was it when you went to a kid's house and like their mom didn't allow snacks or whatever?
Oh, yeah. Well, for me, it was Miracle Whip. When you'd get like a sandwich made by the mom at your friend's house and they use Miracle Whip instead of mayo, it was so fucking disgusting.
Doesn't it taste? I don't think I've ever had Miracle Whip, but it tastes so
completely different.
Oh, no. It was like, but Cool Whip. No, Cool Whip is delicious.
It's like the whipped cream.
Yeah, that's
We're wandering
amazing.
too far afield.
Oh,
we gotta focus.
It's so fun.
But this guy, John, he was 20 years old. He was going to a small community college outside Seattle. Definitely not Harvard, he says.
John, don't do that.
I know, but this is where we also see we get reenactments. And the
We
reenactments
do.
are awesome. They're like, these reenactment actors are 90s to the max, man.
Because
they're basically watching My So-Called Life. They're very tubular.
Is that 90s or 80s?
That's the 90s. Oh, my God.
Is it? Okay,
yes.
God. I just did like a thesis on
she's
the
wearing
Joy
like
of Pepsi
flannel and like
commercial.
listening to Nirvana. It's the 90s.
Well, it is 1995, and
Yes.
we're in Seattle.
I had big dreams, big aspirations, but the things that I liked to do most were be out in the mountains. I had been up climbing in Alaska, climbing in South America. I was trying to figure out my way to climb the highest mountains in the world, see different places, experience different cultures, but trying to match it up with my reality of no checkbook.
But he was saying that, like, I couldn't afford it, basically. He's
Right.
like a poor college student.
Enter Linda, John's mom.
She's a wreck.
She is very nervous to be on camera.
Which is funny because she's great on camera.
But, like, she's great because she keeps being like, John, she keeps, like, looking, and John's talking over her. But they have her list all of John's jobs. And she's, like, struggling. And he's coaching her from the side. And he's like, just ad-lib. She's like, I'm trying.
She's like, why can't you say it? We learned that. You want to go through the jobs?
Sure, I'd love to.
Paperboy.
Bike shop.
The mom tells us he delivered teriyaki to the locals.
Specifically.
I'm like, the locals? Like, you mean like your neighbor? What do you mean by locals?
Like the good people of Seattle? What are you trying to say here, Linda?
Window washer, glass cutter. He sold magazines.
Which she has a question mark.
Yeah. And then he was a climbing guide. To which I said, was there no fucking Dunkin' Donuts in
No.
Seattle? You know what I mean? Like, I had a million jobs when I was a kid, but they were all like ice cream shops and coffee shops.
And this is where Linda goes, but he's no Harry Styles. If only, she says, if he was only Harry Styles, I'd like him even better. And
I'm sorry, I'm a Harry Styles fan.
Join the fucking club. Get on Harry Styles'
Hot take,
TikTok.
Linda.
I know, right? Harry dance.
He's so hot.
He's a wonderful performer.
So John Legend loved the ads. I'm gonna call him John Legend every time.
So we get more Pepsi commercials, like Supermodels, the Spice Girls, like
Shaq,
Looney Tunes. Like Pepsi had like everyone famous in the 90s.
Dude, throw the shade, throw it.
And so John, our friend, goes,
Their association with like MTV, cool athletes. I mean, they had Shaq.
Don't even think about it.
They had Cindy Crawford. Coke, they had the polar bear. And my grandparents thought that was real cool.
John? The polar bears were adorable.
They were.
They were Christmassy.
The Christmas polar bear ads are iconic.
Yes.
They are as iconic as the Cindy Crawford ad.
Yes, I agree.
Totally.
But Coke didn't have to distract you with the bells and the whistles and the supermodels because it's a superior product.
Totally.
John.
Well, I think John's just in it for the jet. I don't think he really cares about the
And
product.
that's fine. And now he hates Pepsi, which is great. Again, join the club. I mean it. Coke was superior. They didn't have to distract you with the Spice Girls. And am I going to look where the Spice Girls are? Yes. Have I seen them live? Absolutely.
But then everybody in this episode talks about Pepsi as though like everyone was drinking Pepsi. It was like the Pepsi generation.
But
and
I
all
guess
that.
at the time it was true. Like what I was going to say was like the worst is when you went to a kid's house and their parents didn't allow snacks. But when they only had Pepsi.
Well, then there was the whole Crystal Pepsi. I was obsessed with Crystal. It didn't taste any. They promised you that it was going to taste exactly
clear.
like Pepsi.
It looked like water.
But it didn't taste anything like
No.
Pepsi. It tasted like Sprite.
And also, I have to say, Pepsi is a better name because Coke leads to, because of the implication.
Of course.
And also, like, remember in Home Alone? Geez, Fuller, easy on the Pepsi. That's a funnier line than Fuller, easy on the Coke because you're like, was that kid on drugs?
100%.
You can't really make that joke with
No.
Coke.
So now Cindy Crawford is telling us her story of her like iconic ad, which I'd kind of forgotten about it. But she says in 92, I was 24, which is wild because in 92, I was 12. And I remember thinking that Cindy Crawford must be in her 80s. Like,
She also looks 34.
That's what I'm saying. Like she never looked like she was like in her 20s.
No.
You know what I mean?
Oh my God. So it was for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And she the way she says it so casually. So my agent called me and said, do you want to be in this commercial for the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Super Bowl commercials were like.
And still are. And she describes this ad as iconic, but you can tell she's not talking about herself. I love the way she described it because she's talking about like the filming of it and the idea.
The casting, the music, the writing, like everything worked.
she's not talking about like, look at how hot I look.
Right.
Cindy Crawford seems awesome.
She does.
I
She
want
really
to
does.
fucking hang out with Cindy
She
Crawford.
does. But she's also admitting, she's also not doing that self-deprecating thing. Like,
Yes.
she looked great in it. She was wearing this like tight white shirt,
Yeah.
short denim cutoffs, and just like drinking a Pepsi and her hair blowing. Like
Exactly.
effortlessly flawless, right?
Yeah.
And so she's kind of like, yeah, it was a badass commercial. Like people still dress up as me and tag me on Instagram.
Exactly. Oh my God. So we learned that in spring of 1995, John is coaching Little League football.
Another job that Linda forgot.
Oh, totally. A Little League football. I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't know that was a thing. And he says one of my assistant coaches tells him about the points.
It's Friday Night Lights up in there.
How many assistant coaches
for Little League
the
football?
kids in the reenactment look like 6 years old.
That's how old they are.
Like, how many assistant? Well, also 6-year-olds can be menaces.
It's true,
So I
but
don't know.
yeah. Anyway, one of the assistant coaches, John sees him like knifing his Pepsi bottle
Right.
to get the points off, and John's like, "What is that?" And the guy says, "Me and a bunch of guys are pooling our points to get that fighter jet."
Right. And so John hadn't seen the commercial yet.
Yeah.
So he's like, what? All right. Ha ha. Like he doesn't get it. He's not in on it. But he goes and does eventually see the commercial.
Yes.
And he notices there's no fine print on this. I think we can get that jet.
And he's saying, like, this is what I like about John. He has an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
He wants to make money. He wants to make a mark for himself. He's willing to do the work.
I was going to say he wants to work.
He wants to work, but he wants to be a success. And
Yeah.
he's thinking, this feels like an in. And he's like lying in bed at night. He can't stop thinking about it. He's really trying to be as logical about it as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I think there's a path. I think this can happen.
He starts doing some math.
I'm trying to figure out how much a Harrier Jet costs. And I was able to put the price in the $32 million range. My immediate thought was, you could probably get 7 million Pepsi points for a whole lot less. I really saw this as an opportunity, a legitimate opportunity to change my world.
John is also assuming that many other people are doing this too.
Right.
So John, there's like a ticking clock. So now
Right.
John's rushing.
He wants to be the first.
Because PepsiCo, John isn't the only person who thought that. He learned about this from a bunch of guys who also thought that.
Exactly.
So John is thinking, all right, I'm late to the game. I just saw this commercial. This is kind of crazy, but it's like, it's kind of doable. Other people are doing this. The race is on.
Yeah, it's all so crazy. But I believe John. I believe in him. I think he can do this.
Right. So he wants to get it done fast and he wants to get it done cheap.
Right. So he starts by thinking I'm just going to buy all the Pepsi and we'll drink it all in my house. The mom is like, we were getting truckloads of Pepsi.
It took them 4 days to realize this is impossible. Then we get on-screen text that says they would have had to drink 190 Pepsis a day for 100 years. All right, scrap that plan,
scrap
John.
it.
Plan B.
So he knows he needs a lot of money. He needs an investor, right? It happens that John fucking knows a guy.
And there's one guy for the job. He rides a motorcycle. He gets the cool music, so we know he's going to be a character.
I gotta tell you, I instantly didn't like this guy. I changed my mind pretty fast.
Yeah.
But he's one of those guys that fucking lives off the land, man. He's very cool.
Yeah, he was the one who, before this started doing them, he was like, they both taste like shit. They're both bad for you. Let's move on. All right, let's go. And it's like, all right.
We're at this guy's house. His name is Todd Hoffman. And we just get somewhere in the mountains.
Right.
Because he's got a fucking pond full of trout. And he's afraid if we get his address, we're all going to come and steal his fish.
Steal his fucking trout.
Todd.
He's also doing...
Nobody wants your trout, Todd.
He's doing pull-ups in the doorway.
You know what, though? The guy is in his 60s and he looks... I would kill for that body.
He's also been through hell and back,
Yes.
this guy.
Yes.
So remember the woman who was sitting at the big dining room table with all the food around her and the dog paintings? That's Phyllis.
Yes.
That's Todd's mom.
I mean, she is also a character.
She's amazing.
He's a chip off the old block.
And she's with a live dog and a
Yes.
painting of a dog. We don't know any of the dogs' names. It's fine. I'll get
She
over
picks
it.
Coke in the challenge,
And
by the way.
she's very happy about it.
He was a very active baby in the crib. He started shaking the slats in the crib, and he broke out. And that was a picture of what was to come. He was going to bust out, and he did.
So this guy's a world traveler, and he falls in love with Mount Everest. He's climbing all over the world,
I
right?
mean, this was when I was so kind of annoyed with him. He's like, I'm climbing everywhere. And then I got to Nepal, and I knew this was where I was meant to be. I was like, barf, of course.
But it's also
I
holy
know.
shit. But in
I'm
1992...
just annoyed that he can do that many pull-ups, if I'm being honest.
Again, talk about effortless.
I know. And he just eats trout for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Enough, Todd. We get it. Jesus.
Don't steal your fucking trout.
Nobody wants your trout. Nobody wants anybody's trout.
What happened? Something happened one time. Because the way he was like, I don't want you stealing my fucking trout.
He woke up one day and all the trout were fuck.
Who stole Todd's trout? Now you have me to deal with because I like Todd. So in 1992, Todd develops a very large brain tumor. 1 in 200,000 people get this tumor.
Which I didn't realize people survived brain tumors.
Like one that was so
massive,
right? So it was removed and he had a long recovery. He's now deaf in one ear.
And he was like a guy that took his health pretty seriously.
And, like when you're climbing mountains all over the world, like that must have been devastating for him.
100%.
So his goal is, he's like, I worked really hard. I did my physical therapy every day. Like,
and it was painful. It was awful, but he's determined.
The goal is to climb again. And the doctors are like, no, you can't. Like, are you kidding? And he's like, are you kidding? Because
so he says, I really fucking hated that. So I decided I was going to make it my goal to scale the highest mountain in North America.
So he climbs Mount Denali in Alaska.
Yeah.
And that's where Todd meets John, because John is the climbing guide. Like, John's in his 20s, Todd's in his 40s.
And I gotta say, I was surprised by this. I thought John, like, theoretically, someday wanted to go climb mountains. No, he's fucking doing it.
And, like, these are two guys who fucking do the thing.
100%.
They put their mind to something, and then, like, they're just, like, nice, and they just really like each other, and they get along really well.
And they tell us, like, they're on the mountain, and they had to, like, weather a lot of storms. So they're, like, 7 days at a stretch in a tent, just the two of them, shoulder to shoulder. Like, you get to know somebody really well like that.
Yeah, when you go through something like that, absolutely. So they make a plan to climb the highest mountain in each continent, and they do it.
And they do it. It's funny because we meet John's mom, but we don't meet his dad. And the mom makes the comment at one point that she's like,
over the years, Todd and John developed a wonderful friendship, and I did kind of turn over my son to Todd, and he did a great job. He did a good job of raising him.
So, like, this guy, Todd, is definitely like a father figure to John. And, like, this is where we also learn Todd's got some money because he's had a lot of, like, business. He's, like, good at anything he tries.
He's got a ton of money. It's very vague how he has the money.
Well, he said he had been in the car business, the restaurant business, publishing, real estate. He's like, I kind of succeeded at all of them.
The point is he's got money to burn to get these Pepsi points.
And that's the thing. So when John cooks up this idea and he's serious about it, he's like, there's only one person I know that would have the money to actually invest in something crazy like this.
And he likes and believes in John.
Exactly.
Like, he'll listen to a pitch. So John plays the commercial for Todd. And Todd, right away, jumps all over the fact that there wasn't any fine print at the 7 million point thing.
Yes. And he says it, he's like, I know I watched it 80 times, but Todd is the one who tells us this was the era of fine print in every ad. And it's weird that this ad doesn't have fine print.
And usually, again, I learned this from Mad Men, but back in the, like, legally, you have to do that.
Right. Or otherwise, it's a real offer.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, with cigarette ads, you couldn't have, like, when they started cracking down on cigarette ads, like, back in the 60s, you couldn't have, like, someone look superhuman or bigger or stronger than they were.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't have something doing something impossible that it could never do.
Mad Men,
all of it.
Okay, great.
Oh, all of it. So it's like, if you're going to have the Harrier Jet for 7 million points, right next to the leather jacket for 1,200 points, you got to put that fine print there.
And so Todd is saying he in no world thinks that this is a real offer, but he knows that, like, they found a loophole, right? So he says to John, all right, if you're serious about this, put together a business plan and come down and pitch me.
Dazzle me.
Yeah.
I presented the business plan. It was a multi-million-dollar business deal to go out and acquire all of the points. And to acquire the points, it spelled out labor costs, transportation costs, storage costs, and at the time it would cost $4.3 million.
So much work.
Yes.
It's so much work.
Well, number one, it's $4.3 million.
That's how much they need.
And this is when we learn that each 12-pack has 5 points.
Come on,
like,
Pepsi.
And you gotta get 7 million fucking points.
But you also need like 1,500 for
to get the leather
shirt
jacket.
or
Exactly.
Like,
so you just paid like $900 for a leather jacket.
Such a scam. I mean, it's a business move, but it's a scam.
Right, of course. Unless
it's not a scam. Don't sue me,
Well,
Pepsi.
listen, it's like the way to make it not a scam, what they learn is that it's going to cost $1.4 million to get enough Pepsi points to get the jet that is worth $32 million.
Right.
Not a scam that way.
No.
It's a reverse scam.
Right. But like they need 1.4 million to buy all of they need 16 million cans of Pepsi.
So here's the thing. They're talking about like where are we going to put 16 like they're like, buy them and store the cans. My thing is dump it out and return it. You know what you would get if each one was worth 5 cents? $800,000.
All right, we're on our way.
Like, no one did that math. Like, were they not redeeming cans in 1995? They were. They absolutely were.
Were they?
They would have gotten $800,000 back just in redemption. Dump it out.
wasteful.
I know.
But like, who's drinking all of the Pepsi, right?
Just dump it out.
And John wants to start like renting out warehouses around the country to have these 16 million cans. He wants to hire 45 people on the payroll to do this. John, there's got to be a better way.
But I will tell you, it's impressive that John figured out how to do it.
Absolutely.
Even if they're not going to, the fact that he figured out how is pretty impressive.
It's a numbers game, right?
So Todd's got a bunch of questions.
Todd's like, I'm going to stop you at the $4.2 million and the 16 million cans of Pepsi. So Todd has all this money to burn on this thing. Todd is good at this. He's good at business. He's got to be, or else he wouldn't have these millions of dollars to burn on the Pepsi Point Challenge.
Exactly.
But Todd was able to point out a lot of the pitfalls, and he poked a lot of holes in it. He had hard questions. A legitimate question. If somebody could not buy a Harrier Jet, then on the face of the offer, it was not legitimate. 1995, no Wikipedia, right? It was still going into literally encyclopedias and looking some of this stuff up. And that's when I started trying to reach out to folks in the Pentagon.
If it's a device of the military, are we even allowed to own it?
John goes, good question.
Would they find out, though? They call the Pentagon again, and they're like, technically, you can own it as long as you don't have any of the missiles.
Right. So, but yeah, as long as the jet is the jet and you don't put any weapons on it.
Yeah.
But then, like, the other thing is that you can't buy one of them.
Right.
You have to buy them in bulk, apparently.
You buy 6.
So Todd's like, but that's not our problem because we're going to win it from the catalog.
Exactly.
So you deal with that. So the first pitfall is out of the way.
Right.
Which is, can we even have it? Number 2, what the hell do we do with this jet now that we have it?
Todd is concerned that if they turn around and just sell it right away, it's going to look bad to Pepsi. I don't know why that's a concern.
Yeah.
But they're like, we'll give rides in it. Well, you can't do that because there's only one seat.
Right.
But they're like, we'll rent it out for movies and we'll whatever.
Yeah,
and Todd's
air
like, fine.
shows and all this stuff.
That's
fine,
a fine answer to Todd.
And so now John has to prove that Todd will recoup the investment.
Yes.
And that they can also make money on this.
Right. But the other question is like, what if we spend $4 million of the $4.1 million or whatever it is, and like they stop making the Pepsi Points the day before we get the last one that we need?
And John is also like, what if someone else beats us to it? Like, John, you're the only, I promise you're the only person doing this.
But they also don't know like how long they're running this. Like Pepsi could end it any day.
Right.
So they could get to like 6,999,000.
Right.
They don't have the last one. There's no more and they lose.
And because there's no fine print, usually in that fine print, it'll say offer valid until X date. And now they don't have that. Todd says no. Todd passes on the pitch.
Poor John.
John's devastated.
He put the whole thing together and he flew all the way down to wherever the hell Todd lives.
He like, someone else was kind of excited about it. He's just like, this was going to be his big break. And Todd said no.
And it's like a big disappointment when you're like a young kid. And it's like the first thing he really put his like heart and soul into.
He's like had a passion for it, like drive. So he goes back to his life. He's washing windows. And he stumbles on a
delivering
Pepsi.
teriyaki to the locals.
What? Linda, is that racist?
I don't know.
He's washing windows and he stumbles on a Pepsi display about the Pepsi Points.
Yeah.
And he starts looking through the catalog, which he'd never actually done before.
Yeah. Well, again, the fact that they printed a catalog, this would never happen now.
I know. And John's like, oh, reminiscing about what could have been.
Right.
Except it's all hats and cheap sunglasses, John.
Exactly.
The jet's not in the catalog.
Right.
Even though I'm on, I'm not rooting for the evil corporation, obviously.
Right.
I get to the end of it, and I'm reading the fine print. And at the very bottom of the fine print, it says something about being able to buy Pepsi Points for 10 cents a piece. And so long as you submitted a minimum of 15 points, you could buy the balance of the Pepsi Points.
He stumbles on some fine print that actually works in his favor.
Yeah, he learns that you can actually buy Pepsi Points at 10 cents a point.
Right.
Like you can just like send in money and they'll send you points.
And that means that they only need $700,000.
Exactly.
So if Todd was entertaining this at $4.5 million,
right.
Also, who has $700,000 to burn on
just
Pepsi Points?
Laying around.
Oh my God!
Because this may or may not work, and if it doesn't work, do you get your $700,000 back?
Right.
Probably not.
But John
you
calls...
get a shit ton of crappy leather jackets.
Right. Cheapo sunglasses. But John calls Todd. He's like, we're back in business, baby. I got good news. It's only going to be $700,000.
And you know what? Todd is like, I was very interested, but I'm going to write a check for $700,000 and send it to PepsiCo. And like, that's going to put me on their radar. And I'm a guy that likes to fly under the radar.
Yeah.
But then he's like, you know what? Screw that.
He goes, this is sticking your thumb in the eye of Pepsi.
And he says,
Todd wants to take down the man. And I'm into that.
Yeah. He says, to hell with them. I would say it differently if I weren't on camera.
Right.
And he's like, I'd say, fuck him.
Fuck him.
I say, fuck
him. You can say whatever you want. This is Netflix. Also, I love that I always kind of flew under the radar. Todd, how'd you make that money? It's none of my business.
How'd you get that lake full of trout, Todd?
Why don't you want anyone to know where you live? It's none of my business. Stay safe. I'm on team
100%.
John and Todd right now.
Yep. But then, of course, it cuts to this guy, Brian Sweet. Is that how you say it?
Sure.
Brian Sweetie, the former chief marketing officer of Pepsi. So this episode has been so fun, right?
Right.
We cut to this fucking guy, and I said, that guy is like the dad from Elf before he found Christmas cheer.
Oh, right.
That's who he reminded me.
It was weird.
Of.
When something comes up like this, legal, will kill anything.
Yeah, the big evil corporation's here, and now we're going to war with Pepsi about a fucking military jet.
Here we go.
The commercial that backfired. The 90s commercial that backfired.
Oh, my God. Oh, fam, thank you for checking out episode 1 of Pepsi Where's My Jet.
What a wild ride.
So wild. All 4 episodes are available right now and ad-free at the Patreon. I'm on the kids' side, I got to tell you.
Yeah, and let me say, also, check out McMillions if you're on the Patreon.
Oh,
very similar
yeah.
vibes, very stylized. And I think we were just coming off of, like, Don't F with Cats or Tiger King.
Yes.
We needed, like, a light, fun break, and McMillions is definitely off the rails. So if you liked this one, there's so much more on the Patreon for you.
And while we're doing that, if you're new to the page, check out The Jinx. Season 1, Season 2. It's like our classic coverage.
Yeah,
it's like our
years and years apart, but still.
So good, so fun. People are always asking where to start. Start there.
Start at The Jinx, yeah, for sure.
All right, we love you. Once again, all of these episodes are available ad-free on Patreon. It's patreon.com/truecrimeobsessed, or just look in the show notes and we'll have a link to it there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this and
me
keep
too.
enjoying.
Happy Thursday.
Yeah, happy.
Happy day, whatever day you're listening to this. In 2929.
You know what? Sure. Love you. Bye.